date's wrong on the computer. Want to welcome Ms. Jackson here. Congratulations on your award, well deserved. Thank you for being here. Commissioner Alford would lead us in the pledge, and Commissioner Winters will say the bless. If you would, please stand. Stand, please. Stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, which one nation, under God, indivisible.
Shall we pray? Father, we thank you that we can come together, do the business we have today, public, able to move forward, proceed. Know that you own the cattle of a thousand, so that this whole earth is all that you things in yours.
Amen. Thank you. All right, going to our agenda. Welcome all of our guests, and we're going to the mayor's report. Mayor Davis, you are recognized for as much time as you need.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I passed out a new revised typed copy versus handwritten on behalf of the Register of Deeds. I also passed you out a thank you from the Secret Safe Place for Newborns in Tennessee, thanking you for the contribution that you voted at last meeting to give them. And your credit card report. Fire department used 4 times, all good. Assessor 3 times, all good. Sheriff 4 times, all good. EMA 1 time. By the way, no media here. We had a fraudulent charge that we claimed on the fire credit card 2 months ago, and they checked it out and gave us full credit. This past month, we had a similar situation with EMA, and they checked it out and gave us full credit. And the only other one is the mayor, who did not use it last month. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you
Go ahead.
when you say blah blah used and it was all good, does that mean they turned in the receipts matching up with the transactions, or what does that mean?
Okay, I try to do that instead of telling all those things. All right, the things they answer on here, I'll give you an example. The fire. Receipts were attached, yes. Receipts were signed, yes. Receipts were detailed, yes. Card was used locally, no. How many times? 4. So the end result, all good. That's what they're answering for.
Thank you.
Mayor, when those fraudulents, does the credit card company issue a new account, or they just?
The way that works, when we get a bill that we question, we tell them that this is fraudulent or whatever. They will cancel that credit card. They'll investigate, and in both of those cases, they issued a new card and full credit.
Thank you.
Sometimes rumors spread around about fraudulent use of a credit card while they're investigating, and all we can say is we've turned. But when we see the bill come in and it's got questionable things on it, we will question it, and usually that's the end result.
Because there's just one credit card that everybody uses, right? There's not multiple accounts.
It's different with different departments.
Any other questions for the mayor on his report? Seeing none, going back to our agenda. Budget amendments. Go to the first budget amendment. I'm going to slide this right here. Bradley County Schools, Fund 141, $502,808.34. She's decreasing her fund balance and increasing her expenses. She itemizes her expenses right here and the description right there. I do find the Walker Valley High School field house roof. I was glad to see that. And I know they've been talking about that for years on that. So good going on that. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there you see the detail right there, and that it passed the school board. Next page. Next amendment is, again, decreasing her fund balance by $158 and increasing her expenses, itemized. This is the Spark 4.0 grant, CTE supplies and equipment, and the fiscal year Community Foundation of South Alabama grant. I have a motion to accept the amendment. I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. And you have your supporting documentation all the way up to page 7. I'm gonna make a note here. All right, now we got the media here. Just kidding. We're gonna adjourn. All right, next budget man, page 8. She's increasing her revenue, increasing her expenses, so it's money coming in. And she itemizes where she's putting it there, $44,548.12. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. And we got supporting documentation all the way up to page 13. Staying in schools, but going to Fund 177. She decreases her fund balance. She increases her revenue, decreases her expenses, and increases expenses. Moves undesignated fund balance in its expenditures to fiscal year 24 budget document attached. Adjustment for actual expenditures remaining in FY 23. Fund 141 transfer to fiscal year 23 reserve balance. All right, Susan, that's the one. If you could help me understand the increase and decrease on, or I'm sorry, yeah, the decrease and increase on expenses. Do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Please, thank you.
Basically, it was just truing up. We estimate what that's going to be the best of our ability in 177. Keep in mind, that's our construction account.
Right.
So Ellen just trued it up while she was doing these other things. Also, keep in mind the big dollar amount, the transfer from 141. That was money that was allocated for capital outlay, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, with the instruction that if we didn't need it all at the Pie Center for equipment, it would be transferred into the construction account. So this was money that was allocated last year. It was not all needed, and so we're moving it over to 177. And the fund balance that's moved, keep in mind 177 can't carry a fund balance. So when you do your year end on this construction account, we've been advised to pull it back out and allocate it so that at the end of this project, it will all zero out.
Right. I get that part. I guess I'm trying to put my question correctly here. You have cost on the Pie Center that was part of the construction and all that, and then you're going to have obviously ongoing maintenance. I mean, year to
Correct.
year, that'll always be part of your maintenance plan. Is
That's
this part of bucket 1 that was part of the construction piece, or the ongoing maintenance piece?
This is part of the construction piece.
Okay.
145, Fund 145, which we brought to you,
Right.
in May, that's actually going to be that maintenance and operating.
Okay, so when we think 177, it's the project of getting the Pie Center up and going, and 145 is ongoing maintenance.
That's correct.
All right.
I know it's very confusing.
No,
for
no,
us
no, that
too.
actually makes it simple.
Okay.
Because I guess the question is when will the project 177 be done?
And that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
something I can actually answer for you, but
got it. All right, do I have a motion yet?
So,
Oh, I have a motion from Commissioner Winters to adopt the amendment as presented. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. And we stay in schools, and we stay in 177. This is a repeat, right? Yeah. And that'll take us to, very good. That's all with schools. Going to the mayor's office, he is decreasing his revenue, increasing expenses, $944.58. Staying, well, he's moving this over to archives. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Commissioner Slater, you're recognized. Oh, I apologize. I'm on page 22.
21.
Yep.
I don't have it.
We don't have a
That's fine.
21. 18,070.
Yeah, on the paper side, I goes from 2021, so
It's not.
I'll come back to 21 here.
It's
Yeah.
not numbered, I guess. It's
Yeah. All right, we'll come back to that one. All right, we're on page 22, which is the one I just stated, and we'll come back to 21. My bad. I'll make it up to you somehow. All right. This is the one where the mayor is using money in the archive reserve account in order to do some repairs or maintenance or something like that over there. Right, Mayor?
Yeah, and as an update on that project, the alarms have been installed. I think the burglar alarm is still being worked on, but that's all been done, but there was a little bit of an increase from the time we got the estimate till now, so we need a little bit to finish it. But that's to get those alarm systems put in the building that you all approved
The
a
one
few
on
months
Church
ago.
Street?
Huh?
The one on Church Street?
Right,
Yeah.
the archives building.
Okay, yeah. And that should finish up that project.
Yep, it should.
We have a motion?
Some,
We have a motion from Commissioner Winters. That's what I'm saying. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Just testing you guys to make sure you're paying attention. You passed. We're going back to page 21. Still Commissioner
yeah,
Winters.
go for it, but
We got- Okay, this is decreasing the fund balance from 128, which is the art money, increase in expenses. This is for the, yeah, this is right, $18,070. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. I'll recognize myself just to explain real quick, because there may be some confusion on this. So in the septic program, we set aside and earmarked a certain amount of money. Then we went back and put a little bit more in there that the mayor's office is handling that piece of it. Got that? Obviously, these projects, there was an estimate on how much the cost would be when I believe the Tennessee Department, forget what, environmental contractor did the estimate. And the Tennessee did the permitting. Right, okay. Anyways, make a long story short, the estimates are just that, an estimate. Some of them, the estimate, we'll use easy numbers. They estimated $100 and it came in at 75 for $25 worth of savings. That savings went back into the pot. Some of them were $100, but the actual cost was $125. This is one of those that came in where the estimate, and then once they started the project, it was a little bit more. So we're basically moving money to cover those. None of these have gone over the max that we allowed per project. So that's still in place. The max that we set was 15,000 with the 80-20 rule. As we get near, the mayor gave a report last night of how many projects are done. I think, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, you're like in single digits of having all the projects done, right?
I think 11 of 18.
Right, so they're estimates, so we're just truing up, but no additional projects are being awarded or no applications are being reviewed. These are projects that were pre-approved back when the project first started. I just want to clarify, everybody's on the same shit. We're not expanding their project, we're just truing up the existing projects on their estimate. Very good?
Mr.
All right.
Chairman,
Yes, please,
and it's 3, right?
correct. This is what we know so far, and the potential is that the few that are still remaining, if they did, we'll have to true them up as well. And we're going to talk about that here on the agenda of how we close the project. But there could be more, but we'll have to see until.
Mr.
Adam?
Chairman, there's
Yeah.
also, there's at least one case where the amount came in less than
Right.
what was quoted. So we'll actually, in theory, see money come back to us from RC&D for that
And the
difference.
process is, if that happens, like my example, you estimated $100 and it came in at 75, the cost, and it's all paid. The 25 goes back into the pot.
Correct.
Or back into the fund balance. And that's what's happening on those. So some came in higher, some came in lower, but the amount of money that we allocated is the same. Very good?
And To,
Mayor?
to finish my question,
I'm sorry.
the original amendment was 2, you've changed it to 3, so you have an updated amendment. Make sure that Renee or I both get the revised one, because I still got the old one in front of me.
I apologize. I thought we, yeah, that's what, right.
That's with 3.
Some of this was coming in at the last minute, Mayor.
All I'm saying is make sure Renee gets the right
We
one, or
will.
you won't get the correct amendments.
Yeah, well, that's on me, Mayor. I thought she knew, but I'll take care of it. I'll walk it over there. It came,
She said she did, so that's
Okay.
okay.
all right, all good? All right, thank you. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you, guys. You're more than welcome to stay, or, because this is what you were here for, is so Adam will work with you on the piece there, on the difference of your estimate and your actual cost on that, and the other two as well. All right? Thank you, guys. Thank you for what you do for our all of our people, yeah.
Great.
All right. Now, can we go to page 23? And Mayor, if you don't have any objection, and the members don't have any objection, these are the traditional September amendments where our county clerk is moving money out of her reserve account into her expenses to pay the bills. And she has from page 23 to page
27.
27. I'd like to take those as a package, kind of like how we do services rendered. Or I can read them out all one by one, but they're basically every September, those fee offices that have to move money out of the reserve accounts into their expenses, this is when they do that. If everybody's okay with taking page 23 to 27 as a package? Yes, Bear, okay.
Chairman,
Please.
it says move it in a reserve, taking it out of reserve, but is there a reason, or there's no explanation where that money's going? I guess that's what I'm asking. It just says reserve balance 0, it's taking it out, just
So she's
ending
using-
her reserves, all it's doing, but
She-
it doesn't say what he's gonna spend it on.
Well, I believe the line item gives somewhat indication of where she's moving it. Mayor, when she moves this money out of reserve, it's dictated by law of how she spends it, right? And she gets audited on it. But as far as what she actually spends it on at that detail, the line item description is about all we get, right?
Yes, you don't have a budget for these things, is why it's kind of vague, I guess you would say. Being a fee office, from memory, it was to pay for some additional salaries and things like that. But it is a fee that can only be spent by her for those purposes, yeah. I mean, looking at them, I understand what you're saying. They're not detailed, but they're not going, except for the one on page 27, they're not going to lines in your budget per se. I mean, they are, but I can't help you with it other than it is going to offset costs of the office, of the clerk's office.
Well, you said salaries, is that bonuses or is that actual salaries?
Well, the way it probably works is they're paying for some other things, freeing up some money for this thing, and so it's moving it around. But I don't want to say it wrong because I'm speaking for her, but it is, in general terms, to offset costs. She incurred more costs when this fee came out. I mean, so this is her spending it for the office costs. And some of it's going in like the $5.99, but there was probably things that were paid out of $5.99 that's now being, you know what I'm saying? So it is offsetting the overall costs of the office, is one way of looking at it. And it can't go anywhere else except her office, so.
Mm-hmm. Yes, put it in, this is a salary line item, and this is FICA and retirement. Yeah.
See, that one there is actually going into salaries. That one
Yeah.
is, salaries and benefits.
When the budget was approved, don't they provide the salaries, how much they're gonna pay out in a year for salaries and things, and here we are adding it back in, or is that
Well,
actual money for salaries?
I believe
No,
they enter
you-
into an agreement with the mayor on,
Yeah, you don't have a budget for salaries and those things, for fee offices. That's what's different about it. That's why it's hard for me to explain to you.
there's 3 or 4 like that. The trustee, the county clerk, the, circuit clerk, or the clerk and master, I'm sorry, are all like that, right? So that you have a letter of agreement, I think that's what CTAS called it, right, Laura? That they enter into with the mayor, cause he's running their payroll. But to answer your question, during the budget time, you'll notice it's blank.
It'd be nice though if we had explanation where some of that money's going, don't you? Be pointing the question.
All right, we can invite her to, the October meeting and, well, I mean, I don't think we
I
should
don't
roll it
really
over.
wanna
She's gotta
do.
pay the bills, but in order to get an understanding, I don't think it's not worth it. I mean, she's gotta pay the bills with the money, but to get a better understanding, there's no reason why you can't say, we passed this back in September, but in October, we can have her come and ask her questions.
Well, I think it'd be beneficial just to put a note to her or something, if she really don't, when he turns these in at the end of the year, if she just at least lists what it's going for, like all the others do.
Yeah, or, I don't know, this is, Lori, you think she's here and can come in pronto, and we'll come back to these if she can come over? Commissioner Alford, well, if she's available, I mean, I didn't think to invite her because, not that this, I mean, this is kind of standard. Yeah.
Okay.
But I appreciate your concern. We'll see. We'll table this for, not table it, that's technical. We'll come back to this one and continue on, and Lori will see if she's available to come over and chat with us real quick. All right, moving on. Thank you, Lori. Moving on to register of deeds, and it's all nice and neat. Thank you, Mayor. She's decreasing her revenue and she's increasing her expense.
And this one is for,
And it's also
data processing, so it's going into the data processing line to pay for data processing
it's
expenses.
also coming out of a reserve account.
It's coming from reserve, increasing revenue into the general fund, and then going in the proper line to pay it. Hers is simple. Donna's is more complicated.
So do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to page 30, misdemeanor probation. He is decreasing his reserve and increasing his expense. I'll get a motion in a second. I'll elaborate on this. I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. I'm gonna recognize it. Remember, we set a policy that, the DUI money, the first 10,000 would go to the ankle bracelet program. And then after that, Renee would calculate and do a 50-50 with Judge Freiberg and with Rich Kinlan. This is 50% of after the 10,000 has been allocated into the ankle program. And just, the ankle program is still a match, correct, Mayor? So in other words, when we put 10,000 in, it really can purchase $20,000 worth of ankle bracelets.
We're not participating in the state program anymore, so
Oh.
it may not. But I think from memory, that's been a few months ago, the amount would cover it, more than cover it. But we're not participating in that complicated state program anymore because of this.
All right, they discontinued it, or we just opted out?
We opted out. And we weren't spending near all that you were
Yeah,
committed.
we never spent all 10,000.
What this does is puts the same amount there, but we've never done this much, so it should be more than enough.
Okay, that's right, because there were certain bills that were not ankle bracelets, and
Yeah.
they were getting paid, and we had to match it, and that's not what we
That-
wanted the money to
That's
go
why he
towards.
suggested just do this, give
Yeah,
this to me
now I
for that
remember.
reason, and we want him to participate. And it is a lot simpler, I can say that, but
It is. All right, so this represents that 50%, and you can well imagine that that's the same amount that's gonna go to Judge Freiberg. The 10,000's already been put into his account, right? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Moving on to page 31, data processing, he's decreasing the expense of 5,600 of $2,250 and increasing expense into tuition. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater, I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Commissioner Alford.
Do you know, Mayor, right off the top of your head, what we're paying already for data processing? I mean, on the, data processing service, maybe Adam, one of you.
What
I was
our
asking.
contract is
Yes,
per month,
yes,
roughly $4,000 a month is our contract amount with Right Court.
close to 50,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I see here tuition. What's the deal there?
There are, so one of the things that we've been trying to do the last couple of years is do a little bit of training internally with our own employees. And one of the programs that we have budgeted will provide for some of that. This will give us some additional funding to be able to do something similar and add to that.
Is this requiring someone to go to a school or something?
No. Tuition's just the best line to use, but it's not, we're not sending anybody to a school with this. It would be all of our employees that would benefit from it.
Who does the training?
We're looking at a couple of different companies right now. One of them is a company we already work with called WebRoot. They provide some internal training. We would essentially the best way to describe it, one of the ways we can train is to send out fake emails to our employees and see who falls for it. And then go
That's a
back.
common practice.
Yeah, it is common practice.
Very.
That's one way. of doing it, yeah.
So that's one of the ways we'll sort of look at our vulnerabilities and then be able to follow up with some training after that.
Who all was gonna get trained?
All of our employees will benefit from it. Anybody, let me back up. Anybody with an email address will benefit from it. So any of our
But who's gonna be doing the training, or who gets trained to be able to do this? Teaching.
WebRoot will, and through Right Core and WebRoot will help us
So
with
this
that.
2250 goes for that purpose.
Some, yes, a lot of it will. Some of it is for certification in cybersecurity. It's just a big issue that we continue to get hit on from the state too. It'll give us an opportunity to apply for some grant funding too, once we have that certification as a county.
Does the county get that certification, or an individual?
It would probably be me.
So
Has
you're
to be an
gonna
individual.
you're gonna be going to school, or you're gonna stay?
No, I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Sorry.
and
Just
So
wondering.
let me ask you this, Adam, when you do the education on the employees and you do the sampling and all that kind of stuff, this has always been a question in our world where we're decentralized and you got elected officials and stuff like, is it gonna be required for them to take this training, so to speak? Let's say in the private sector, we are absolutely required, and we actually have to sign a document that we did the course. But I take any elected official, and he basically said, my employees, don't make them do that kind of thing. I'm just asking for the thoroughness of it.
We wouldn't be able to require it because, as you said, each elected official would
Right.
have the option. We would certainly encourage it.
Sure.
If we were to ever explore the option of cybersecurity insurance, this would be a requirement, and it would have to be done by all of our employees. But no, I mean, we're going to certainly ask and encourage, but depending on the elected official.
Yeah,
It'll be up to
that's
them
what I
to
thought.
enforce it. We'll
But-
certainly know who has and who hasn't.
And if I could add to it, Mylan.
Please.
This has gotten to be a really big deal. I don't want to say a whole lot about it, but almost daily there are attempts, lots of them. The state is offering some programs. One thing you mentioned is the grant thing. We're trying to get us prepared there. A lot of people say we ought to get cybersecurity insurance. I'm not saying we don't have it, world, but anyway, in order to do it, there's a lot of things required that we don't do. Like he said, having all employees, which would include you all because you have email. We've not gotten there, but we're trying to take steps to get there because it's getting really bad and the insurance requires a lot of things to happen. So the state's stepped up to the plate and they're offering some incentives. And this is getting us better prepared to maybe get some of their incentives down the road also. So bottom line is we're spending money on a subject that I don't want to, but we almost have to.
I understand, and over in the private sector, we do as well, so.
Yes, she's had the question over.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Slater.
So why can it not be mandatory if you have a Bradley County email address?
I guess it depends on how tough you want to play ball. I mean, we could say, if you don't do it, we'll shut your email off. I guess they won't have a choice.
I mean, something this important,
Yeah.
I think it's,
I don't think that we'll have pushback
I don't,
from the department and the elected officials. There'll be employees that don't want to do it,
But it's getting close to having to do that. I mean.
for our
it'll-
protection, for
correct.
the county's
right,
protection.
I mean, when we log into the email, I know we see emails
Right.
all the time, and we've gotten an email from the mayor that wasn't from the mayor asking us.
There
Right.
are attempts
Asking
every,
us-
every day.
And they
Those are-
look real.
We got an email from the Prince of Nigeria or something. and-
That one would throw up a red flag, but if I send you an email, it
The ones
wouldn't
from the mayor
necessarily.
Oh, that's right, you needed a gift card.
Yeah, I needed a gift card.
Apple gift cards. You want.
Hopefully you guys know me better than that, but they really are creative and every day. I
They
mean, these
are.
people ought to go get a job, but they're working at it, I'm telling you.
Mayor, they're in the basement eating Cheetos. They have no life.
Uh-huh,
Uh,
Oh.
I know it.
Anyway,
Can I ask one question?
Commissioner Alford, you good? You had the floor?
Yes, I'm fine with the answer.
Thank you.
No.
Commissioner Winters.
And just to mention it, make sure if you ever see one with an attachment that's from somebody you don't necessarily, that's definitely a flag, because when you open that attachment, they've got us.
Yeah.
They got our attorney one time, a few years ago. That wasn't a pretty situation, but we've been very, very fortunate. That's the reason I don't want to say a whole lot about it, but but the insurance, whenever we look at getting insurance, the list they give us of things we've got to have done in order to qualify, you know what I'm saying, is we're trying to work on that list and shorten it, is the bottom line here.
Mr. Winters.
Well, the password every 90 days bothers me to.
Yeah,
no-
yeah,
no
that makes
extent.
everybody
Yeah.
mad too, but we gotta do it.
And it just never works for me. But spam, do we not have, I get every once in a while, there's a guy that wants to give me $5 million from Africa somewhere. Can that not be spammed out? When it comes on the feed that I have from the county, I get the absurd stuff.
We,
So
we
you-
can block an email address once it's come into the system.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to stop a new email address from coming in, especially with the fact that all of your emails are public. I mean, they're
Yeah.
all on the
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
Many of the county
Yeah.
offices have emails that are listed on the website, so that it's not hard to locate your email address. And they do. They just sit in there. They eat Cheetos in the basement and email people all day long until they
Yeah.
find somebody that falls for it and sends them.
Do you think that a spam, some kind of structure, platform-wise, would stop that stuff from coming up?
Well, the
Commissioner
filter
Winters,
will
if I-
filter out a lot of them, Bill.
Yeah.
It filters out a lot of them, you can assume that.
We have a
But they're-
Barracuda system.
They're constantly creating new ones,
yeah.
and so.
We have
The Barracuda, we still have
we have
Barracuda?
a filter in place now, which we can tighten it down further. But then you start to miss emails that you really do want to get.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a price to pay to remain secure.
So educating our employees not to click on attachments and not to hit on the tab. So some of them have a tab in there, and it's an HTML link to something else, and
Anything
educating
asking-
them, and also letting you and IT know when they get something, so that you guys can investigate even more.
Anything asking for money, anything asking for any type of login information. We
Birthday.
do have the feature at the very top of an email if it's from outside of our network. In other words, not a Bradley County TN email address. It will say at the very top. So that's a lot of times when you think you're getting an email from the mayor. If you look at the top, it clearly says that this is not an email address from inside the county. That should also be your first red flag and an opportunity to pause whatever the email is.
When will the education start?
We hope to start it as early as January.
Very good.
We've got the other piece of it is scheduled to start in January, so this would be a supplement to it.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Thank you, Commissioner Alford. Thank you, Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Yes. Oh, yes. All right, so we're going to go back to page, what,
28?
23 through 27.
pages 23 through 27. If you'll come up to the microphone, Commissioner Alford would like to ask you a few questions, if that's okay. Commissioner Alford?
Yes, I was just wondering on the explanation for some of this. You know, there wasn't any explanation, just says reserve balancing. You're balancing your zero out your reserve, and I was just wondering where that money's going.
For which one? For the title fees? That's a new account this year. It's a new bill that was passed that we got $3 more earmarked off title money, and that's earmarked for the county clerk to use her discretion for anything that's needed to run the office. That's the $3. That's the one that says title, local title fee. Is that the one?
Here you go. Well, there's several here, I don't. Oh, here, local title fee, here it is.
Well, there's one that's,
$109,000?
I'm sorry.
Was it the $109,000 one?
Yes, local title fee, 109,584.
Right, yeah.
That's new this year. That's never been before. That started July 1 of 22. That was earmarked. They allowed $3 more per each title, that money to be earmarked for the office to be used however necessary to run the office. Can be used for anything. Salaries can be used for equipment.
Well, that's my question. What is it being used for? It
Well-
doesn't say, you know, it just doesn't say anywhere in here.
Right. It'll be used for some will be used for equipment, and a portion of it will go towards salaries.
Is it salaries or bonuses?
Salaries. No bonus.
There wasn't any explanation where that money's going, that's why I was asking the question.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess I didn't realize we would need one on there just because it was earmarked money, and the way it was used, I did these. I didn't. I guess I didn't put an explanation just because the others that are earmarked are not really, they're just laid out by the description of how they're to be used. So I didn't do a description, but that will be used for some, probably a new server, some equipment, and some towards salary.
Okay.
I can make that reference next year. I'll make sure I
I
put
would
it on.
appreciate that. It just,
Sure.
I'm not real smart in it, but I
It's
need,
okay.
I need to
mean,
read
I'll
what I'm
change it
looking
however
at.
you want to do it.
It's complicated.
So
Yeah, I
the
don't
next
mind to
one
put
was
an
business
explanation.
tax, $28,000, and same scenario.
Yeah, that one is used for computers. That's used for paper, copy paper. That's the reason we can reduce what the line item is for in the budget for our. I don't have a sheet in front of
Supplies
me.
and stuff.
Supplies. Yeah, we use a lot out of that, and a lot out of the one that's referenced 599. Referenced on here is title fees also. That's money that's paid back to us for every title that we do issue. That's different from this other local title fee that they just added this year. And that title fee, that money goes towards purchasing equipment, copy paper, anything to run and some of it goes towards maintenance.
Was these items already budgeted? your supplies and everything? Or is this adding more into your supply budget?
Well, this money is made all year, and then it's turned over at the end of the year, and then that's what we use to operate the next year on top of what's budgeted. And then there's always money left over that goes back into the fund. It's rarely ever depleted. And then we use it to do the pay on maintenance. The maintenance contract goes up every year. And so we divide that out and use part of it for out of business tax, part of it out of local title to pay the maintenance,
Okay.
as opposed to raising the amount we do for local supplies in the regular budget. That number's not been raised in several years
Right.
because of this money.
Okay. So you figure that money's coming at the end of the year, so you don't budget anything extra?
Right, we know that, I see that this money's in there and how much we'll turn over, so we kind of have an idea of what we'll have
Okay.
towards buying supplies or computers.
Well, you've answered my questions. I just would appreciate an explanation the next time around.
I'll do that. I'll be happy to do that. I'm sorry.
I appreciate you coming up here and explaining.
Mayor
it.
Davis?
Thank you.
Okay.
Wanda, before you leave,
Okay.
Yeah, there's got a couple of questions.
if you looked in the budget, they don't even request it anymore, but used to, some of them did. We will zero it out in the budget, and then it gets amended in when they take their reserve money. So, for example, other supplies and materials, we budgeted 0, but when you follow the budget at the end of the year, it'll show amended budget, has that figure in there. That's where they've put the reserve fund money into their budget. So we don't budget it. We expect them to use their reserve money to fund those items. A couple of things, though, I wanted to mention to you. Let's take the first one. The expense of 52,500-599.
Uh-huh.
In my opinion, it's erroneously saying title fees. 599 should be other charges.
Yeah, that's,
It would be a little bit simpler for them. I didn't know what to say because the title didn't match the line. And before you answer, you go to the 2 down, 52,500-499. 499 should say other supplies and materials, which would answer a lot of Louis' questions if it had said that.
yeah,
So
it's just the confusion of how those are set up.
yeah, I understand, but just know that 499 is other supplies.
I'll do them as the one year I did them as the budget said, and it caused, and then I did them every year. So I'll try to do them as the budget says.
It really should. And then you've got the new one, but I think if that had been there wouldn't have been as much question. But the bottom line is on these lines, it's to spend money like it's reserved for. It's not budgeted, and then we put it in there. And we do the same thing for the other fee offices. The one that we just did for the Register of Deeds was a similar situation. They either don't budget it. Gayla Miller's is very similar. A lot of her lines, we don't budget them at budget time, but they come along and put money from reserve into those various lines to do those things. That way, the state's intent is we're going to give you a fee to pay for these things. And so we ask them to come in at the first of a budget year and amend the balance of reserve, and they'll usually amend the whole balance. In this case, it always shows 0. So what she was saying is we'll put the whole amount in there. We may or may not spend it. If at the end of the year we don't spend it, it goes back into that reserve account. Kind of a little bit of keeping up with on our part, but what they collect throughout the year plus what they don't spend goes back in the reserve, and then next year they'll do the same thing again. So
And
All right.
that $399 is gonna show up on the budget, that new local title. I don't think that's the way it's going.
yeah, there is a 399. It's not in your budget now, but it does exist. I'm not sure what it's called since it's not in your budget. But if you would find out, because local title, I don't believe would be right there either, but I don't know for
Right,
sure.
it's not, and I have to put it in. But I'll list them exactly the way they're on the budget, and I'll explain. I'm there.
Thank you. And I just, like I
So-
said, I'm not real smart. I like things explained simple.
So back to the amendment with the 109,584. You said that this number represents the $3 increase.
Mhm.
So that's your revenue projection. You based off of the state now allows you $3 more. you're projecting 109,000.
No, we know
What
that's
they
what we
collected,
have.
yeah.
That's what we made last year, and that's what was turned over. So this was all for 22 that we
Okay,
had.
so I'm like Commissioner Alford, let's keep it. So when did the $3 increase go into effect?
A year ago.
Yeah, a year ago in July.
A year ago.
So it's been
So this
tracked for a year, and now that's their actual amount.
Oh, okay, so it's not a projection, it's an actual.
Right.
Right, that's an
Okay.
actual dollar figure. Everything here's the actual dollar figure. There's no projection. Total-
Okay, so
Total money.
a $3 increase only brings in 109,000.
For the time period, that's what it brought in. For the time period.
What was the time period?
July, yeah, 300, July 1 of 21. July 1, 22 to June 30, 23.
So
So that's
a
1
year.
year. Yeah, it all varies on how many titles we issued at $3 a piece.
Okay. The second part, well, that's an actual, so that gives you an idea of like when the state allows, if they allow another dollar or two here and there, what that is. But you said a moment ago that this is going to go towards equipment, what have you, and salaries. Your salaries are in your 1 and 200 lines. So are you going to amend this 109,000 to your 100 and 200 lines later on?
Yes, we'll move it. This was a new one. Renee didn't have it. This was down to the last minute. Tell me just to move it all into here, and we'd move it as when we needed to. Because she didn't have this set up, and this was Friday afternoon.
So
I was
they'll-
gonna be off last week.
There'll be another amendment moving a
portion
portion of that 109 over to your 100, 200.
Whichever, well, it won't go into those 102 lines. It'll go in,
100 or 200.
Right, it'll-
The series.
right,
not-
it'll go into that, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
depending on if they're part-time or full-time, all that kind of stuff. All right. Any other questions? We're going to take these all up, pages 23 through 27, all the amendments all together. Very good. Do I have a motion to accept the amendments as presented? Have a motion from Commissioner Mason. Have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much for coming over. I appreciate it. Thank you, Donna. Oh,
Good answer.
that takes us to
28, maybe?
32?
page 32. Thank you, Mayor. This is Parks and Rec. We are decreasing the fund balance, and we're moving the money over to line 426 and the 56900. So we're decreasing the fund balance for, it should be
A check came in that rolled into fund balance, and now you're taking it out to spend it. That's one of
so
those
we've already
end of
got
the year.
We already got the check.
The
Yep.
discourse. Yeah,
If we already got the check, then
At the end of the year, checks that come in at the end of the year, you can't amend them.
all
So
right,
they go into
so
fund
this was
balance,
in
and now you
the,
amend them.
the money came in the last budget.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So with $10,000, and this is going for disc golf.
Fletcher Park.
Fletcher Park? Is it Fletcher Park?
Elrod Park. Parkview.
We got room over there for a disc golf? I don't know. I haven't been over
We
there.
got lots of room out there.
Okay. We budgeted for lights. I know that.
Right.
That's coming from art money.
That's baseball fields. That's not for disc golf, but yeah.
No, you're looking at
You don't want
tons more money. if
I
you
don't
do
think
it.
you want to throw a disc.
We're not gonna-
Lights for
We're
disc
gonna
golf.
like the
No,
golf
you just
course.
throw the frisbee and wish for the best.
It'd be tough in
Yeah.
the dark.
I guess my question, who's going to manage this out there in the middle of nowhere?
I mean, I don't want to speak for Andy, but aside from the mowing, there won't be a lot to manage. It's right there on site with the ball field, so they're active out there pretty regularly as it is.
There's nobody at that park during the day, though, are there?
No, but this would change that. There'd be a lot of activity.
So,
Does anybody know anybody that plays this game?
If you want to see who plays, go to Fletcher Park and look at the hundreds of people a
Fletcher
day that
Park.
play over there.
Sort of
right
like
now.
pickleball. It's a
Yeah.
new thing that's really going.
I hadn't even caught on to
Yeah.
that yet. All right. I play regular golf. Anyway, this is, you're gonna have what, 9 or 18?
The plan is to do an 18-hole course.
So you're gonna have a par 3, a par 4, and a par 5, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Water shots.
$10,000 from TVA, is that what I see?
Yeah.
So, so our electric bills can go up so we can play district. I'm just kidding. We have a motion and a second. Now I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner
Another
Alford.
question. You think
Commissioner Alford, one more question.
10,000 will cover it?
No, that won't cover it. There's some sponsors that are also involved that will pick up the rest of it. He also has, I think it's $2,500 that was budgeted last year for this, that was PO'd to hold over to work this project as well.
Commissioner Winters.
What is the cost of a disc golf course? What do you have to do?
Hole in a wire net.
What do you have to do? How do you have to?
To do it right, I mean, if you're looking at Fletcher Park was done very well. So if you're using that as the standard, you have
You set it up like a
cement
football field.
T-pads, they're called. So, you know, a 4x8 T-pad of concrete, and then the baskets that they make for them. Although it's an 18-hole course, they actually put 2 baskets on each hole over there.
Yeah.
So they had a long and a short, and turned it into what's 18 times 2, 36. But that may be an option too for this park as well. But it could be as inexpensive or as expensive as you want it to be.
Throw it in a basket.
That's right.
The bottom
got-
line, don't
you got-
forget, this is a $10,000 grant. Remember, you guys that are accumulating grants, this is another
Oh.
$10,000 to throw in there. And it implies that there could be another one coming from Cleveland Utilities, if I read the letter right,
I
but
thought they were
This is one
together.
of the
They
same.
were together on this, yeah,
I don't know.
on behalf.
Yeah, out there with a par 3, hole in one.
Be a sport I could do. No.
I'll ask later. Anyway, we got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussions on the disc golf amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Moving on, and there's the check and the letter from TVA, my friends over at TVA. All right, we get into juvenile court. Vicki Town is here. Thank you, Director. Appreciate you being here. She is increasing revenue and increasing expenses by a whole whopping $33.50. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes, and there's the check from Cleveland Ford. Moving on to the next amendment, page 37. She is increasing her revenue, and she is expensing in travel and tuition with her explanations. Wright Brothers Construction Company for juvenile employees' travel and tuition expenses are attended by TBRI. I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there's the check from my friends at Wright Brothers.
That's great.
And gets to the next amendment on page 39. Excuse me, juvenile court, 160,000, and you can see that this is in a different fund, Fund 111 that the mayor set up for the opioid. This is her out that we earmarked or we appropriated. It's now keeping this nice and neat between what they're doing and what I guess is it Judge Freiberg's getting the other piece of it, Mayor? But that's when I talked to Renee, that's the way she explained it to me.
what was it about Freiburg?
Are the 160,000 to keep it separate? I'm sorry, the sheriff. For some reason, I was thinking Freiberg when I think opioids. Never mind. But this is going to go into 5517, and she itemizes the lines right here up to 160,000. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0.
If I could just add,
Please.
if you were looking at your budget, when you approved the opioid budget, there's one single line in there for juvenile drug court. We asked them to break it out and how it would be spent so we could do salaries and so forth. And so by doing that, it's creating a second budget in the opioid fund, separate from the sheriff, so that when we report to opioid, which is a lot like ARP, we'll be able to report that we're doing this in the breakdown for detectives and so forth, and we're doing this for drug court treatment and so forth. But
That-
it came from one line that you've
Yeah.
already approved, and the amount is the same.
But we kind of approved the allocation piece of it, the amounts per one already, so this is just kind of the
Yeah.
back office piece of
Yeah,
it.
you've approved the 160, now you're approving the breakout.
Right, but, Melita, let me ask you this real quick. We're already past the amendment, but this is gonna be paying salaries and benefits out of this, fund and account. The individuals that are paid out of this, is this the only account that they'll be paid out of, or will they be paid out of multiple accounts? Just this one? So you won't have employee A who's paid out of this account, part of their salary, and another additional part of their salary. This keeps it nice and neat. It's paid out of there. Okay. One is paid out of multiple accounts and everybody else out of this account for what they're doing. All right. Next budget amendment is page 40. Andrew Morgan, Andrew Morgan, decreasing expenses. And this is a correction to $599 of $600. So I have a motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next one is page 41. Sticking with Judge Andrew Morgan, he's decreasing expenses from his clerical 189 over to 207 medical insurance. I talked to him the other day. He is going to opt in on the insurance starting January. He's got his own insurance up until the end of the year, and this will cover that piece of it. I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That takes us to page 42. Bradley County EMS, $3,000. He's decreasing his expenses on one side on line 338 and increasing over to 356 for tuition over at Cleveland State. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Commissioner Slater, please.
And I apologize for not having my budget with me. Does he have $1,000 in tuition already for this year? Because if he has 2 students that are going, 2 times 2,000 is 4,000.
Mayor?
Without looking, there was an amount there, but not enough.
Okay.
It, probably what happened is Mike wasn't aware there was a match to this scholarship. We're still getting the scholarship, but we have to put some into it too, and I don't think he realized that. So when I reminded him of it, he didn't have enough in that line.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, I have a motion and a second. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to page 43, amendment from the fire department, a whole whopping $5. Motion to accept the amendment as presented. Let's debate this real big. Let's spend an hour on the $5, right? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion on this $5? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there's the check. Staying with Bradley County Fire, in 121, this is insurance recovery for $863.20, and it's going into 338 from VFI. Have a motion from Commissioner Winters. Have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0, and there's the check. Then we get into page 47, and she is decreasing the fund balance, which probably means that the check's already in. We're bringing it back out, and she's putting it in law enforcement equipment in line 716. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment, page 49, is a donation, so it's increasing revenue and increasing expenses. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Passes 5-0, and we thank Ms. Lawson for her donation. We get into page 51, $127,966. This is that grant, that violent crime grant that we've talked about in Commissioner Offer's committee a few times. Do we have a motion? This is now doing the accounting piece of it. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented from Commissioner Slater? I have a second from Commissioner Offer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And I suspect, Mayor, that there's going to be a number of those kind of grants coming in for the violent crime, right?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth, about a number, but
Is they? Yeah. All right. Page 52, 289,400, and this is the COSAP grant. There's no matching grant. I have a motion to accept it, and you can see where she's putting it in there in 312, 355, and 499. I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. There's your detail on the allocation of that grant.
Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Alford,
Question
please.
maybe Mayor can answer. That, 101-5414, very top thing there. Wheel tax officer. What's a wheel tax officer?
I think they were getting desperate on titles. I mean, really, from memory. 54-140, because we labeled it in your budget as the COSIP grant, but COSIP grant didn't exist in the chart of accounts, so I think they went to that number to use. But just don't worry about it. That's, if you looked in your budget. I know, but when you go to that number, 54-140, in the budget, it says COSIP grant. So that's what it really is. It's just that number on the chart of accounts. See, the state gives us chart of accounts. They don't always have an appropriate named account for things. Sometimes we have to get creative. And I think that from memory, that's what we did there.
I thought for a minute we'd passed a wheel tax or something.
The important thing about that one is that huge grant that is part of the Prevention Coalition, and I know you hear that name a lot, but it's a very most complicated grant I've ever dealt with, because a lot of different agencies, a lot of different people are involved. They're the ones renting a space from us at the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so this is putting a large amount of that money in contracts with private agencies, which is part of that overall purpose that we got the grant for. So I just hope to never have to really in detail explain this one. It started last year. You're doing the same thing you did last year. It'll go on for a few years. Huge amount of money that we got there, but it's not one that's going to a certain department to use for certain things. It's diluted with a lot of different things.
Yeah, they finally moved into the location last September, right?
They've been there a while now. I
Yeah.
don't know how long, Bill.
All right. Lori, I lost track. Page 55, $2,500. We got a check from the city of Dayton for fingerprint services. How's that? We have a motion to accept money from my friends over at Dayton. From Commissioner Winters, I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes
Aye.
5-0. And there's the check from the city of Dayton for $2,500. Do we get into services rendered? Nope, not yet. Page 57, this is an amendment from an employee that exited Bradley County and wanted their documentation. So the sheriff basically said, it cost us for this documentation. If you want it, then you're gonna have to compensate us for it. So he did, and you can see the money order, and we need to recognize the money into the budget. We have a motion from Commissioner Winters. We have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to page 60. This is money coming in for the security at the Walker Valley. Right.
This is for the crossing guards at both high schools.
Both, okay, I just saw
Well,
Walker Valley right
We
here.
provide them, they pay for it.
That's right. That's right. And Susan, you guys, yeah, you guys don't have anything to do with that part. All right. Do you have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters? I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Commissioner Alford and Commissioner Slater will try to make this more exciting.
And the next few pages is services, 64 through
What are
72.
you yawning? She did too. I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
64 through 72 is services rendered. You can do them
Services
all
rendered,
together.
so in tradition, we'll take this up as a package. You can see where she's putting that for those that are non-government. I'm keeping track of that, just so you know, or Lori and I are. We have a motion to accept the amendments as a package from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Gosh, I know, you guys yawned at the same time. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. That concludes the budget amendments, unless there's.
No, you got one more. Well, no, the circuit court comes after the sheriff where they're doing their reserve accounts. Page 73.
I always thought services rendered was always just
It was
traditionally-
usually last, you're right. but yeah.
Traditionally the last, and
Was testing you.
and I failed. I'll do better.
And the last one is doing more of what you've done with these other departments.
Oh,
It's
okay,
taking
but
the
she's not a
reserve.
fee office, though.
Well, she is and she isn't. We operate her as a budget, but she still collects fees like a fee office.
Right,
She's
right.
By
But everything-
definition, a fee office.
Everything in her budget we see, all the way.
But we don't budget these items. We ask them to reserve money they collect as a special fee into those lines.
All right, so she's moving into her line from her account that only can be used for that. All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Mason, we have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. That should conclude the budget amendments for this. Going back to our agenda, move it around. Okay, agenda item, A, Veterans Headstone Cleaning. Oh, I can report to you that the private sector stepped up to the plate and made some donations to help our friend out. I'm trying to think of the, yeah, Mr. Johnson, John Thomason, but the money went over to the committee or trying to think of the gentleman's name.
The one we got, we
Gary
sent,
Austin.
and we told
Yeah.
them to just send it to
Yeah,
them.
and Mr. Austin texted me that John got the fees, and I believe that they're doing well with that. So I appreciate the private sector stepping up on that. So there's nothing to be done by Finance Committee or the County Commission on that. The next one is closing out of the septic program. We talked a little bit about this in the budget amendment. We're almost done with the program. Like the mayor reported last night, we're down to single-digit projects. And then I suspect that we will formally close that when all those projects are done. I guess the only question I have, Mayor or Adam, is do you guys get some kind of official notification that the project is done and signed off and are?
You talking about individual projects?
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to know to let us know that there's no more projects?
When we write the check, well, we've already prepaid the NCRS or whatever they're called. They've got the money. They'll have to let us know. But on ours, when we pay for the last project, we know we've got 7 more to pay for. When we get those 7 paid for, we'll know we're through. We're dependent on them to send us the information on how they've paid theirs out, because we lump sum the money to them and they're paying it.
Okay, so by the end of the year, we should be done with this.
Yeah, we'll be done much before then, but I don't know about
you know-
them. They're moving slowly, but they're getting there.
I think it's worthwhile saying that when we did this, we pretty much flooded the market with requests. And the state who has to permit this they basically had one person, correct me if I'm wrong, and then they had to go get some additional help with all the permitting. So we basically flooded the market with requests, and they weren't ready for it, and that's kind of what's going on. You know, our friends at the state, they're so good at this. All right, so I anticipate closing out the septic program here in the near future. We'll call it that. Next one on the list is the, oh, please, I'm sorry, Commissioner Winters.
Could we have the final number? How many septic tanks requests have we done?
We did 18 inside. What was that other number? I don't have the septic report in front of me.
89.
89 and 18.
That's
Is that
pretty
right?
good.
Now, you just added two of those you just amended. No, they were both just additional monies for the same project. So, yeah, 89 and 18.
Yeah. There's no new projects. There's no more
Yeah.
applications.
So over $100 million.
Speaking of American Rescue, item C on the agenda, Commissioner Alford, you asked for this to be placed on the agenda. You're recognized.
Yes, I was just, Mayor had mentioned several times about a bucket update. I was just wondering if that was gonna be available anytime soon.
Well, I can give you an update on the ones we know. What I'm waiting, when I've talked about it, I've got to get you an updated plan so that we have a plan that we're working from in place. The last time you updated it, I believe, was in May, and you've amended the budget twice since then. What we're waiting on now is for you all to finish out your water projects. I think your deadline is toward the end of this month. When you get those projects finalized and approved, then we'll know what comes out of the bottom line, the total amount out of the water bucket. And then that will become part of the plan, the revised plan that we'll bring back to you then in October, I guess, assuming you finalize all that. You foresee finalizing the water things I'm looking at Mylan.
Yeah, Mayor, what I think is Lori's collecting all of the applications right now, and at the finance meeting in October, we're going to review them to make sure they fit the qualifications, so to speak, and then make a recommendation to the full commission on funding. And
Once I know that figure, then I will have an updated plan for you to approve. And then everything in that plan, of course, isn't budgeted now. The new things aren't, so they'll have to come back to you as amendments as we do them. Like, for example, when you did the, what was the one you just did?
on the septic,
Well, no, that will change possibly a little bit.
but
I'm still thinking I can handle that one inside the scope of what we've got, though. But when you did the 60,000 for the nursing home last
Oh,
month,
yeah.
that wasn't in the plan nor the budget. So you amended the budget, so it'll become part of the plan update, plus the balance of those monies left from the water. So if you get that done, let's say the third Monday in October, I really want to get that behind us, so I'll have you a latest plan. You see, if I do it now, it's all going to change in October. So my plan was to do it in September, but it'll probably be the latter part of October. But as soon as you get that water thing done, I just don't know a number on that yet. Now, you may give me that number ahead of time, maybe after finance, and I can go ahead and have the plan and coincide whenever you approve it at your commission meeting the third Monday. That may work too. Again, once I know the number. I have no idea how many applicants you've got or how much money we're talking about or how many of them you're going to approve.
Lori,
So-
how many do we have? Do you know about the top of your head? 10 to 12 that we're going to review? And, well, those that pass the qualification, so to speak, we'll add them up. And
Right.
whatever we approved on the bucket, so the bucket amount approved minus that summation of projects will be the difference, and then we'll have to
Yeah.
decide what we want to do with
Now,
that.
having said that, that's why you don't have the latest plan to you. You've got it, I guess you would say at this point, the latest plan is what's in your budget that was approved in July. But, bucket one was totally finished. Sewer is close to being finished. The utilities grant, those are going to take a while, but they're all committed, so there's nothing else for us to do other than pay the bills when they come in. He gave you an update on broadband last week. That's all committed, just waiting on them to ask for the matches. And, well, two of them has matches, and then the third one, they're applying for this latest grant in October. Is that right, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
in October, they'll be applying. We've already got that in the plan and budgeted, so they'll just be waiting on the request for that match also. Affordable housing is all done. So the bottom line is waiting on an update based on the water plan, the water bucket. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And then, but there's the difference between what was, I'm sorry.
When you say affordable housing is all done, you mean it's all allocated?
It's all allocated and all done except for community services.
So Ocoee Outreach has used all of theirs and the place on,
From memory, they've all used, yes.
okay.
Now, community services hasn't. I'll be bringing you an extension probably at the work session next week, because their contract ends soon, and they and the development district have asked for an extension, but it'll get done this budget year. They had to go back and RFP the architects and those things, but it's starting to move now. I think that's the only one from that bucket that's not spent, but it's all allocated, you're right.
And that's a 50-50 project. 50 with the city.
Yeah, we're doing 100, and I think they ended up doing 100, yes. Don't know the estimated cost yet, because now they've got to rebid it, and I don't think they've bid it yet. They're in the process of doing that, I believe. Then we'll know for sure. That price could change. It might be 90 and 90, you know what I'm saying? But we've committed 100.
So all said, after the water project is being closed, we will close the septic. We've closed a couple others. Like I said, the difference between what we allocated or appropriated or earmarked, how's that, for water, and then what we've a grant out, that will kind of be in a general bucket. There's not, I mean, we haven't decided what we want to do with that yet.
Right.
And so that'll be a October, November discussion, probably towards that area.
Right. But, you know, we'll get it in the plan, and then you will approve the amendments because it's not budgeted. So you will be
Right.
approving how it's spent when it is spent.
I'm just thinking it has to be appropriated by this time next year.
Oh, yeah. It'll happen right after the plan's approved is my plan to do it. And more than likely, that water money will go two ways. It'll go some to the affordable housing bucket and some to the URAL's bucket, included in the plan. And then as it comes up to spend, it'll be amendments that you approve.
Affordable, but you said affordable housing has already been done.
It is done, but
this would be in addition to what we've already appropriated.
You've spent what you've appropriated,
Yeah.
but that's possibly where some more will go with your approval. They're all begging for some more. Temporary housing, that type of thing.
All right, so
again, I got to get it in the plan, and then if you approve or don't approve, it'll be up to you at amendment time.
So, Laura, if you would, go ahead and put it on the October agenda for us to review those applicants for the water project.
Was September the 30th the deadline?
Yes, that's the deadline. So it's coming up here in a
Yeah,
couple
get
weeks.
those approved as quick as possible so that we can start moving and know what that number is.
All right, Commissioner Alford, anything else on that? And just, I'll add to it, I had Lori calculate the interest that this principal is making the other day, and you sent it to me, Lori, and it was a little over 500,000 that the trustee is investing it. You know, we got 21 million, but we didn't get it all at one time. We got half of it, and then the following year we got the other. But you know, with the interest rates what they are, I think it's averaging about $55,000 to $60,000 a month that we're getting interest. But that's only going to go down as we borrow or take money out of the fund.
And
But that's a rough estimate. I think that's what you said, Lord, about 500,000.
Yeah, last time I saw it, it was 4 something, so that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And just so you
And
know,
none of that's been allocated or appropriated.
it's not been allocated. I'm not planning on allocating it. I'll leave it for you, but hopefully wait till we're finished with the buckets. The only thing is to put a little bit of a monkey wrench in your thing there, is we've never budgeted development district costs, which have been very small so far. My plan has always been to deduct that from the interest, but it's been tens, not big numbers. And we might have spent, I don't know, 20,000 on it so far of that. It's not been spent. If you look at it in the budget, it's not coming out of the interest, but if I can, the plan will be to commit the 21 million for projects and not use any of it for the development district. And then let's say you have 500,000 in interest minus development district costs, and that'll be your end of the day amount that you have to go to other projects. I want the 21 million, almost 21 million, 20,999,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
I want it, I want you to be able to say we committed to these fine projects and list them. You could say that now, but once we're through with it, you'll be able to brag that we committed them and they're all done. That'll be a good thing. We have spent our ARP money very wisely so far, and if we continue and finish the story like that, it will be big bragging rights for somebody, I tell you.
Well, it's definitely money that we spent on items we probably would have never been able to use with property tax or sales tax or the revenue that we typically get through our budget. I mean, so. All right. Anything else on that, Commissioner Alford? Thank you. All right. Going to other business, I'm just going to say Lori and the HCI committee will be meeting, excuse me, tomorrow at 5:15 to start the HCI process. Mayor, we're still waiting on an amount from Renee on that. Is there? So we can. Yeah, when I talked to her, it is because Mike has his from the calendar year, but Renee's has to reconcile that. Anyway, well, when I talked to Renee, she said that that's not always the accurate number. So anyway, HCI will be meeting tomorrow and starting the HCI process. It should be, you remember last year we didn't use all of it. We didn't appropriate all of it. So that'll float, that'll come over. We're still not doing the water projects because we got the water we just talked about from ARP. So that will not be taken out of there. We're paying the loan for the library out of debt services now. So that helps with increasing the amount that we can grant out. So it should be a much bigger number. When Renee gets with Lori and gets a number for the committee, they'll start their process tomorrow. And I think they'll usually have about 3 or 4 meetings or whatever it takes and then make the recommendation back to us. Commissioner Alford, please. So calendar obviously is January 1 to December 31st, right? And right, and then he said explain it to you, and I just. And then the budget year is July 1 to the following June 30th of the following year. So you got basically 6 months there that one has interest coming from the principal that in fact, when I talked to Renee, the history of this was that both were in sync. They were both using the calendar year, but commission's predecessors to me getting here, they asked I guess Renee to change it to budget year. And she asked me the other day, she goes, would you guys consider changing it back to calendar year so that she's in sync with the trustee? I was like, I have no problem with it, but once we do that, it's going to take 1 year to get them two in the sync. There's that 6 months that they're not. Does that ring a bell, Mayor? That's the way she explained it to me. We talked about it for about an hour, and I said, I have no problem with it. And
I think that's what you ought to do, because I think what you get then is he and hers, or he could tell you, hey, in 2022, we collected X dollars in interest. It would be through December. Now, it's a 6-month lag. It'd be last year's interest that you're spending, but that's okay. And you would know for sure, and you wouldn't have to, I think it would be the simplest thing. I think at one time when you were low in interest, you wanted it to be budget year because that brought it up a little more current, gave you some more interest, I believe from memory. If you went back to the calendar year, and we're talking about 22's interest right now, it would be easier to get, I think. Mike ought to be able to tell you he gives his reports, he can tell you to the peanut how much interest he's collected in 22. And then next year he would do 23. You see, I think that would be simpler if you all agreed to do that.
Let's do this, Commissioner Offer, members. Laura, if you'll put it on the agenda for the October to, go over changing that. Renee hopefully will be here and can elaborate on it, the pros and cons of moving both into a calendar year.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're more current on your interest, but again, if you had 300,000, it was calendar year, you went through June, it might be 400,000, but it's the same difference. You're getting the same interest. It's just for a different reporting period. So if you had a cutoff that wasn't right at year-end closing, which is a very complicated time, if it was December, then we would know way ahead. That would be, I always tell Mylan, don't get numbers from a trustee because there's different. But he ought to know that interest as of December the 31st. If it's CDs, it might not come due for a month or two, but you know what I'm saying? He would have plenty of time to get that final interest. Keeping in mind, you're working on last year's interest, last calendar year's interest, but once you started on that cycle, it would be the same. There would be a lag time that first time you changed it. And I think why they changed it back the other way to get rid of that lag time.
But eventually, you're going to catch up, and that interest from that 6 months, you're going to get in the next year.
You're not going to lose it. It just wouldn't all be there right
anything.
now.
It's just you'll be able to know the amount. Like the mayor said, way ahead of time, which I think there's some value in that. So let's talk about it in October, and Renee can give you the pros and cons on it. When I talked to her, I said I didn't see a problem with it. It was done way before I got on the commission. I think, not to drop name, well, it's public record. Commissioner Stansberry's asked for it to be changed. So, but now we're enjoying 5.4, I believe, or something like that. So, and we did move the payment to the library over to debt services, which helps out. I think that I looked at that the other day. There's like 6, 7 more payments on that. Anyway, all right. That's on the other business, but anyway, Gloria and the HCI committee will meet on Thursday and start their process. All right, the next thing on here on the agenda, not to resolve, the next meeting is scheduled for October 2nd, but I've just been informed that one of our members will be out that day. So if it's okay with you guys, we'll move it to October 3rd. I know October 3rd is a Tuesday. Mayor, I owe you lunch. I totally forgot about you.
I'm sorry. Just a thought, what if we needed to, by moving it forward, you're missing a voting meeting? Is there any way, and I haven't looked at the calendar, but if you moved it the other direction, that way if you had something to take to the full commission, you could still do it Friday instead of Tuesday.
All right, yeah. I'm out that Friday. I slept on the 29th. There's something in Knoxville going on.
Well, we'll do this. If there's something that's going to need to get moved to the voting session, we'll just pull it and bring it to the work session maybe. Because sometimes, you know what I'm saying, sometimes it needs to go straight to the voting session. But we can try to watch that and
well,
pull it.
let's do this. As we get closer to the date, I'll chat with you, and if there's anything like that, we will move it forward. So that it can get to the commission that Monday night on October the 2nd. But considering that we're going to have the water project discussion, I'd like for all members of finance to be here. So stay tuned. How's that? Well, Lori and I will communicate what we do. I am required to ask if there's any communication from the audience. And while I'm at it, Lori, did we ever get an answer from county attorney on that they can only speak about the items on here? Which applies to all committees anyway, I just. Oh. Unless we're disgruntled, then we can do it all day. So in that time limit, like 30 seconds? All right. If there's nothing